Day 25th of Blessed Coptic month, make it always finished year after year was reassurance and tranquility while our sins are forgiven by tender mercy of our God Jesus Christ, of fathers, mothers, and sisters. Today, the preacher of Saint Besarion the Great. On this day, the great worshipper Saint Besarion departed. He was born in Egypt to Christian parents, and when he grew up, he longed for a monastic life. So he went to Saint Anthony and stayed under his administration for a while. Then he came to Saint Macarius and stayed for a while under his guidance. And after that he wandered the wilderness, not sheltering under barren and rough roof. And he was carrying the Bible with him, and the monks circled around him in tears. So his humiliation by that means about the great loss that befell the human race was the fall of the first father Adam, violating the first commandment. He who didn't understand his words lamented to him, saying, God will return to you what was taken from you. The fathers mentioned many verses about him, including that he was walking with his disciples John and Doulos on the shore of the salty sea. And when he was thirsty, the saint took a little of his water and prayed for him, and he became chortled and drank from it all. And once they brought a madman to the wilderness of the flag land, so that the elders could pray for him, and the elders knew the Saint Besarion didn't like glory from the people. They did not want to ask him for the sake of the madman, but rather they put him inside the church in the place where the saint usually stood. When he entered, he found him sleeping and woke him up directly. Can you imagine that? That's mean he became healthy man. Then God made miracles through him, and then he departed. May his praise be with us forever and ever. Amen. And glory be to God forever. Amen. Today also the preacher of Saint Pope Macarius the third and the 114th Patriarch Pope of Alexandria. On this day in the year 1661 and Domini, or martyrs, calendar of martyrs, and August 31st, 1945 and Domini, he the preacher. He was born in the city of Mahalla Kubra, High Mahalla, on February 1872 from an ancient family famous for the family of the priest, which was distinguished by virtue and religiously. So he grew up from an early age in a pious religious community who received his primary and secondary education in Mahalla Kubra and Tant. When he reached the age of 16, he destroyed the world and went to the monastery of Saint Bishoy in Wadi Natrun in the year of 1888 to fulfill his desire for worship and asceticism, and his name was the monk Abdul Masih. And he devoted himself to worship and studied the Bible, church books, and Coptic rituals. He perfected Coptic and Arabic calligraphy, as well as perfected the religious Coptic decorative arts. After he was ordained a priest, who spent about 6 years in the pure ascetic life. Then he went to the monastery of Paramos in the year of 1895 until Munai, where Pope Carlos V gave him address and kept his secrets. He also assigned him to teach in the monks' school, and assigned him to teach the Coptic and French languages, and he intended to make him bishop of the seat of Egypt. But 25 months after the arrival of the father of the Messiah to Cairo, he moved to the mercy of God, Bishop Michael, Bishop of Asyut, and a delegation from Asyut came to Cairo in the Department of St. Mark's Affairs. When the delegation insisted of the request and intensified and hope, the Pope accepted their choice of him, and he was ordained as Archbishop of Asyut on July 11th, 1897 until the Monai, 5 Abib, 1613 for martyrs. And he was at that time 24 and named him Macarius. So he went to his seat as a young man who had no weapon except for his piety, his asceticism, and his knowledge. So he fell from the hands of his grandfather and his past determination and the wisdom of the elders and their experience despite his young age in annexing the diaspora and concentrating the faith. He preserved for the people its unity and the church and its sanctity, and he succeeded brilliantly and was not satisfied with the program that the seat for church reform, but he held a great Coptic conference in the city of Asyut in 1910 under the Monai, despite the objections that were raised in his past, and was not satisfied with that, but presented to Pope Carlos V in the first year 1920 a letter about the political reform advance in a partnership with his colleague Bishop Theophilus and Bishop of Monfalut and Abnub at this time, which indicated his great competence and his desire to uphold the word of the truth. When Pope Carolus V departed in 1928, the people nominated him for the patriarchal seat to fulfill the demands of reform, but circumstances at this time prevented this from being achieved, and when Pope Johannes XIX departed, divine providence allowed for Bishop Macarius to ascend the throne of Mark and ordain Patriarch on Sunday, February 13th, 1944. After he assumed chair the Patriarch on February 22, 1944, he issued a historical document whose main purpose was to reform the monasteries and promote their monks scientifically and spiritually, and he ordered that their principals and superiors be held accountable. This matter led to a great division between the Holy Synod and the General Council for Personal Laws in Church. On June 7th, 1944, anti-demonized, the Holy Synod presented a memorandum to the Pope and Governor of Ministry of Justice objecting to the draft personal status or of non-Islamic sections or religions because it destroys the law of Coptic Orthodox Church's law and it affects two of its sacraments, namely the sacraments of marriage and sacraments of priesthood, which are among the pillars of religion and worship. The conflict continued and the reconciliation between the Council, normal people, and Holy Synod. The Pope attempts to eliminate the misunderstanding field, and the Council insisted on his interference in other than his jurisdiction. Rather, it is within the purview of the Holy Synod until the Pope was forced to leave the capital, the seat of his seat, and retreat into Helwan, then resort to the eastern monasteries accompanied by the fathers, bishops, and after he settled in the monastery of St. Anthony, he went to the monastery of St. Paula, and when the Prime Minister learned of the Pope migration to the monastery, he worked on his honorable return to his seat, so his work was crowned with success, and the Council submitted to the Pope a letter in which he requested his return so that the Church's affairs could be disposed of together to walk the desired path of reform. After that, the Pope returned from the monastery, and the people received him with full reception. So amazing to reform what happened in churches with assertive manner. You see how Bishop Macarius so amazing and assertive to reform what happened in the laws of the Church and the Bible, to apply it in practical life, not to obey laws not from Church, not from Bible. We believe in Bible, we believe in Christianity, that we must obey the Bible, the law of God, not any other dogma, and not personal dogma. That's why I wanted to reform what happened and not accept any orders, command, not obey the Bible. The Holy Synod convened under its chairmanship and issued some decisions in January 1st, 1945, representing the Church of Ethiopia in Alexandria. The Holy Synod convened under its chairmanship and issued some decision on January 1st, 1945, representing the Church of Ethiopia in Alexandria Synod, the exchange of missions between Egypt and Ethiopia, and establishment of clerical institute in Ethiopia, limiting divorce to the cause of adultery, just adultery, establishing personal status law, making a list of nomination and election of the patriarch consistent with ecclesiastical laws and their tradition, establishing a theological college for monks, forming a permanent committee to examine the religions, books, and the liturgy, preserving endowment money and proper function of the patriarchal court, implementing the monastic laws promulgated on June 3rd, 1937 with precision, and summoning the monks residing outside their monasteries, creating a register in each church in which members of each Coptic family are registered, and another in which the names of baptized and those elevated to the rank are registered in diaconism. On June 6, 1945, and in the Moline, the Patriarch of Russia arrived in Cairo, and Pope Macarius sent a delegation of the Fathers Archbishop to receive him and then exchange friendly visits. After that, the disagreement between His Holiness and General Council intensified once again, and this dispute didn't resolve without the Pope taking over the matter of defending the integrity of his nation and the Church's law, especially the personal status law for non-Muslim religions. So the heads of non-Muslim sects in the Egyptian country, headed by Coptic Orthodox Patriarch, on May 30, 1945, submitted memorandum to the Ministry of Justice objecting to the law on the organizing of sectarian courts for personal status, and another to the Senate and presented on June 25th, 1945, containing the objections that must be addressed until it becomes according to their conditions and the traditions of their families. The Pope was complaining of severe weakness that he had suffered in the last 2 weeks of his life, forcing him to remain in his place and retreat. And on Thursday evening, the 24th of November, 1661, for martyrs, August 30, 1945, he felt very tired and suffered a heart failure, so doctors rushed to treat him until early dawn, and at 9:14 a.m. Friday, August 31st in the year 1945, Antonio the pure soul ascended to its creator and separated before noon on Sunday, September 2nd. The funeral of his pure body to his last seat in the church between manifestations of sadness and grief, and placing his coffin next to the bodies of former patriarchs. After he decided on the patriarch, and then we go cut house and dwelling of the righteous. Coincidentally, an earthquake occurred in Cairo at the second hour and 45 minutes at the time of the burial, and everyone felt it. The souls of the believers were affected by nature's participation in grief over the transmission of these pure saints. May His praise be with us forever and ever. Amen. Please subscribe, press bell, like, share, and comment. God bless you.